as the money for incarcerated youth isn't included. And so,
interesting.
I'm wondering just about the unintended consequences as these populations go down, and then they start spending all this money on community-based programs. What happens to these kids that are still there?
Interesting. Yeah. In other words, are there enough resources for the kids that are still locked up? Is that where you're going with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. Good question. I mean, you probably know California eliminated their juvenile justice system. California had kind of a three-tiered system in a way, in that they had, county-based halls and camps and ranches,
Mm-hmm.
and then they had a state juvenile justice agency that could hang on to kids up until they're age 25, and then there was a juvenile division within the DOC for kids who were charged as an adult. And so now they've knocked that second one out of there altogether. It used to have as many as 10,000 kids in it 10 or more years ago, and now recently there was, I think, maybe a couple thousand kids, and now they're phasing that out altogether. So all of the treatment is going to be county-based.
Oh, wow. Right.
All of it. For juveniles, all of it, detention as well as, treatment, all at the county level. And so that puts more pressure on the county. They can no longer say, oh, we're going to send you upstate. No, you're going to be in San Bernardino County. You're going to be in Santa Clara County. And a lot of people know these kids and are much more likely to say, oh, he made a stupid mistake. We're going to make sure we get him plugged in, whatever. It's not this, there's not this kid from across the state that nobody knows who's kind of a jerk and people don't like him and he's in your face and he's got mental health issues and he's got a chip on his shoulder and we'll make him pay. Right. I mean, it kind of changes the dynamic. It localizes and personalizes it. And I think, in spite of the fact California has enormous counties, they're really big, but it keeps things local, which I think is really important.
Yeah, wasn't that like second tier? Wasn't that where they? I mean, when we were there, weren't we involved with those kids? They were shipped into that system.
Well, when we were in Los Angeles County, yeah. So the kids in Los Angeles County that we dealt with were in. I think that litigation involved the halls. So that was kind of the first step. There were kids who left the halls, who were sent both into LA County systems to the camps and ranches locally, and there's also kids who were shipped into what used to be called the CYA, the California Youth Authority.
Right. Oh, okay.
And that California Youth Authority was 18 to 25. They had I've only visited one or two of those places, but they were just like adult prisons, and that was the juvenile system. And then there was a few kids that went to a state prison called Tehachapi. I think in Kern County, and everyone in Tehachapi was like under 25. The youngest might have been 17, 18. But it was just like it was an adult prison. It was just people who had been convicted at a young age of adult crimes.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't a good system. I mean, in Los Angeles, for example, I was involved more recently in some litigation involving a camp or several camps in the county. And the county had, when I first started, had 13 or 14 camps. And it had 3 juvenile halls. So 3 detention centers, 13 or 14 camps, long-term placements. That's just in the county. And they had in the camps, I'm not sure if this was in the halls as well, but they had over 2,000 kids in the county. And it's a county with, 10, 11, 12,000 people, 12 million people, big county. And probably the biggest county in the United States. Most recently, I think they were under 600 kids. They only have 2 halls or detention centers now. They've closed one of 3. And they also, I think they have 6 or maybe 7 of their camps left. And so you go from over 2,000 down to like 600. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. Illinois has fewer than 150 kids locked up in their long-term placements now. When I started in Illinois about 7 or 8 years ago, I think there was more than 2,000 kids locked up. Now, under 150.
Wow.
Part of that's COVID driven. Mm-hmm. And they've also gone from 8 facilities down to 5. Long-term facilities. Illinois has a two system. I mean, the detention centers are run locally, and the commitment facilities are operated by the state. So sometimes it's hard to compare state to state. But I guess the big point is that the numbers keep dropping, keep falling. And so the question is, how do states respond to that? I think your point earlier about, as you transition to something different, you don't want to be in a place where you're literally starving the kids and the programs for the kids that remain in the system while throwing a lot of money into the community. I mean, I think they both need to be addressed, and in a thoughtful way.
Yeah. So it's been a while since I've actually looked at the Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention Act. But I have this on here because I think it's been around, it's been part of the conversation for a couple years now because it hasn't been reauthorized. Nothing sticks with me from when I was reading it. I'm sure I included it in something that I wrote. But, so I don't know if there's anything about that is important. Is there anything? Is that even on the radar?
Yeah. Let me see. So it was most recently. I'm googling it here.
Yeah.
So it was. I knew it was the 70s, 1974. It was authorized. It kind of coincided with the EHA. 94-142, about the same time. And it was recently reauthorized in 2018. So, I mean, for me, the big takeaway was that, it was. At least that's what I have. This is, I'll send you the link, Joe.
Okay.
Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stick it in the text box. Did that work for you?
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that is useful, it established that you couldn't commingle kids and adults in local jails and lockups.
Okay.
That was one of the big things. I've had conversations with folks about it over the years, and the one thing that's always bugged me about it is education is not mentioned at all. And I think we need strong language that says that very explicitly that if a kid is locked up, they do not surrender or forfeit their rights to education services of a comparable quality and intensity as youth provided in the public schools.
Yeah.
But I've never seen anything like that. And, I mentioned a week or two ago when we were talking that, special ed is the Achilles heel in juvenile corrections, because so many places do it so badly and they don't serve children well. But I do think that, and you know as well as I, when you work with attorneys on these cases and you find just really bad practices in general education, oftentimes it's like, well, no, actually, we have the strongest leverage here with IDEA and maybe Section 504, and that's what we're doing,
right.
And I think inadequate education in general for kids that are locked up is violation of equal protection and due process. In other words, except for the fact that they've been charged